ultimate journey, a true test of man and machine, an experience of a lifetime. This is the Honda Quest, a real adventure for real adventure motorcyclists. Drawn from almost 900 entries, just 40 semi-finalists were chosen to vie for one of 20 seats on the inaugural 2017 Honda Quest. The destination? The toughest, most remote routes of northern Namibia. Their weapon of choice? The brand new Honda CRF 1000L Africa Twin. Their ultimate aim? To be crowned the first winners of Southern Africa's most exciting adventure biking event. The Honda Quest is not just about skills, and it's not a race or a rally. Rather, it's a competition pitting passionate adventure motorcyclists against each other in a variety of categories and disciplines, including teamwork, mechanical aptitude, preparation, mental fortitude, and inventiveness. It's not about who gets from point to point fastest, but how they got there and how they coped with the unexpected along the way. Of course, the capabilities of the new Honda CRF 1000L Africa Twin would also be tested to the limit. But first, the 20 Quest finalists had to be selected from 40 semi-finalists during a grueling 2-day boot camp. Here, aspiring Quest contenders were put through a series of tasks and assignments, all aimed at identifying individuals with just the right attributes. Arguably one of the most enthusiastic supporters of the Honda Quest is Honda Motors Southern Africa President Toshiaki Konaka.
My dream is to see lots of people enjoying the riding bicycle and making their dream true. So in that sense, this quest is exactly the event which can make it happen.
Honda Quest is more than just about finishing. It's about savoring every second of the experience while coping with extreme and often unforeseen situations. Attitude is often more important than aptitude, and teamwork is everything. After practical and theoretical tests, it was time to announce the finalists.
The official teams for the Honda Quest 2017 will be Team 1, Johannes Haasbroek and Gerard Visser. Team 2, Cornelius Nelson and Angus Welsh. Team 3, Clinton Pinar and Andries Haasbroek. Team 4, Charles Duplessis and Barbara Mazinski. Team 5, Grant Pentelow and Glenn Koch. Team 6, Andrew Johnston and Philip Groenewald. Team 7, S.P. Dreyer and Marcel Vladar. Team 8, Charles Potgieter and Henny van Heerden. Team 9, Francois Eberson and Pieter Lourens. Team 10, Gerard de Tooy and Kobus Meiberg. Good luck.
Those 20 individuals would soon be winging their way to Windhoek, Namibia for the start of the Honda Quest. When the finalists met up in the Namibian capital barely a month later, the anticipation for the 12 days and 2,500 kilometers that lay ahead was almost electric. There was time to renew friendships forged at boot camp and to complete final preparations for the long trek to come. A rider briefing provided some indication of the route ahead, with northern Namibia promising a challenging but also breathtaking backdrop for the Honda Quest. A send-off at the local Honda motorcycle dealership was next, but then the 20 intrepid Quest adventurers were on their way, astride their equally eager Honda Africa Twins, heading northwest. Nobody could predict what would await them along the way. Yes, there would be sweeping vistas and endless horizons, wildlife roaming free in the wilderness, arid semi-deserts and strong flowing rivers, even cascading waterfalls. Namibia is a natural wonderland, its vast tracts largely unspoiled by man, its ever-shifting landscapes offering new and compelling vistas at every turn. In short, an ideal and challenging arena for the Honda Quest. The 350-kilometer route from Windhoek to Spitskoppe wasn't particularly challenging, even taking in some tar, but the gravel was treacherous in places, making for tricky riding and even resulting in some punctures too. Despite all the excitement, there was also a sense of unease amongst the competitors. The team pairings hadn't been announced yet, and for some, that alone could be a make-or-break situation. With the event based around the performance of the 10 two-person teams as opposed to individual capability, teamwork and interaction would prove to be pivotal. The soaring cliffs and astonishing shapes of the Spitskoppe, a cluster of edifices jutting almost miraculously from the arid desert floor, have been attracting adventurers from around the globe for centuries. But the quest riders had to remain vigilant of local hazards, such as cattle crossing the road, coping with choking dust, and looking out for oncoming traffic, often on the wrong side of the road. There was a general sense of relief when the campsite at Spitskoppe was finally reached after a long, tough day in the saddle. But the tasks were not over yet. Bikes had to be checked, while the evening routine included presentations by the competitors on African topics they'd been briefed on before departure. The man with the fetching turban is Charles Potgieter. What better setting to announce those much-anticipated team pairings than around a crackling campfire, with the Spitskoppe providing a dramatic backdrop. With the teams finalized, the Honda Quest could now start in earnest. On the map, Day 2's 350-kilometer route from the overnight at Spitskoppe to the oasis of Palmbach seemed pretty straightforward. But the reality was completely different. The road was so badly corrugated that it took serious concentration, physical strength and quick reactions to keep the big Hondas pointing in the right direction. The dust posed an even bigger threat though, reducing visibility to just 30 meters in some sections, while sandy jeep tracks were also on the route menu. It was the first opportunity for the teammates to size each other up and their opponents.
I think we are real team players, and I'd like to think that this whole event quest is about team building and adventure. And right now the guys got stuck with a puncture and we were there to fix. And I'd like to think that that is going to be a bit of an advantage towards the end, just being a proper team player.
Our ability to communicate, I believe, it's going to keep our morale up in our team, and yeah, just to look out for each other and to make sure everyone is okay.
So I think we've got a pretty good understanding of what needs to be done. I also think we're here for, both of us love riding.
I think working together, once again, that positives complementing negatives, where there are negatives, and knowing your partner. So where he has a negative, be aware of it. Whether it be he's a slower rider or he doesn't know how to cook, for example. That's where we need to, as a partner, I think, complement or try and step in, even if it's our weakness as well.
The convoy suffered 2 punctures, which were a direct result of the poor road surface, and already the sense of camaraderie was obvious, not only between the team members, but also between the various teams. It was good to see everyone pulling together in the true spirit of the quest. The Quest convoy eventually settled down in the camp of Palmwag, with competitors using the time to check over and service their motorcycles. They knew that the really tough part of the challenge was yet to come and wanted to make sure that their Honda Africa twins were in tip-top shape to tackle any and every obstacle. Leg 3 to Upua, capital of Kouokaland, reminded the teams that the Honda Quest isn't for sissies. The mountainous terrain made for more undulating, rockier routes. The heat became a factor too. 3 more punctures and 232 kilometers later, the Kawako-Otavi Valley campsite offered some welcome respite. But not before the teams had to show off their wheel-changing skills in a team competition against the clock. Francois Iberson and Peter Lawrence took top honours.
Team number?
If Leg 3 was the first of the more challenging days on the Honda Quest, then the 225 kilometers to Ipupa Falls promised to up the ante even further. It all started off innocuously enough, with flowing fast sections as the team pressed on northwards to the Kunene River. But then things got a lot tougher.
I always wanted a bit of Kouokaland for myself. And now I've got half of it in my mouth.
Riding westwards, the next 95 kilometers tested the mettle of man and machine to the max. This was exactly what the 20 Quest riders had been waiting for. The conditions were taxing to say the least, with temperatures soaring into the high 40s, while the route took in the deep sand of dry riverbeds, steep climbs and equally steep descents. Concentration, momentum and balance were critical to conquering the trail, but the spills were minor, and the Quest convoy arrived at Ipupa Falls unscathed and relieved. It was time to relax, rinse off the dust and reflect on a day's hard riding.
I was just flat. So I just completely ran out of energy. I think I lost a bit of concentration. It was a short little section of sand, and I hadn't set the bike up properly. So as I opened up, it changed gears on me and it caught me by surprise.
Bike just caught on a rock and went up in the air and on my side, and I realized that if I don't stop it, because it was going up, she's going to come over completely. And I suppose she would have got quite hurt because the angle was quite acute.
Stay tuned for more action from the Honda Quest True Adventure after the break. Welcome to part 2 of our coverage of the Honda Quest, an adventure motorcycling event that pits 10 teams of 2 riders each, riding identical Honda Africa twin motorcycles against the harshest and most challenging terrain that northern Namibia has to offer. Starting in Windhoek, the teams had already covered more than 1,000 kilometers by the time they reached Ipupa Falls, but the real action was only about to start.
What happened was I went up quite confidently up to about where the track turned a little bit, and I just lost my balance. The guys all grabbed me then, and it was just difficult to get momentum going up that last little section. It takes teamwork to get through a challenge like this. You can't do it on your own, or you need the help of your team. It's the only way you're going to get through.
It was a good warm-up for the day. Getting there, stretching the legs and getting the mind working and getting the body working the lower back and everything, so it was good. Good workout for what was lying ahead for us, yes. I like the technical stuff, like the rocky stuff. Never done what we did today, but that was a challenge and that was awesome. I think the guys came together and helped everybody, and everybody got through the whole thing without incident. So it was beautiful, it was a good day.
The previous day's rocky trails to Ipupa Falls were tough, yes, but the 73 kilometers to Vanzale's community camp would make those ascents seem like child's play. There was some apprehension amongst the riders, and with good reason. This section would take them way beyond their comfort zone. Turning west from Okangwati, the route conjured up thick, sandy tracks and regular river crossings. But the real test would be the extremely rocky and uneven climbs and descents a little further along the route. Undaunted by what seemed like impossible climbs, the riders pressed on, tackling every rocky section. By now, everyone had realized that this was not a one-man or even a one-team show. To conquer this trail, everyone had to get stuck in to help the other. By the time they reached the Vanzale's community camp, almost 9 hours later, the Quest riders had made history, with all 20 Honda Africa twins reaching the camp relatively unscathed.
Quest is a journey that is undertaken in search of something.
So that's a quest to find out who you really are when things get tough and things get hard and the pressure's on.
There's a whole range of emotions the whole day that go through you. You're in awe half the time. It's a journey of self-discovery.
Getting through the difficult, getting through the stuff that's unplanned. Not just getting to where you're going, but enjoying the experience on the way there. This is what adventure riding is about for me.
If there was ever going to be a climax of the Honda Quest adventure, then the notorious Vanzale's Pass would be it. Considered one of Africa's sternest 4x4 routes, tackling it on a big-bore adventure bike like the Honda Africa Twin seemed either very brave or completely foolhardy. And yet, through teamwork and perseverance, the Quest crews made it through without major mishap, an historic first. But Vanzale's Pass was not the day's only challenge. The thick sand of the Marianfluss threatened to suck in those riders who weren't able to maintain sufficient momentum, while the rocky sections had to be approached with just the right combination of caution and finesse. It was testimony to the teamwork and the riding skills of the Quest competitors, as well as the off-road capability of the Africa Twin, that everybody arrived at Marble Camp with no injuries, but lots of stories to tell. Spirits in the Quest camp were high after conquering the notorious Vanzale's Pass, but if the riders were hoping for an easy run from Marble Camp to Puros, their hopes would soon be dashed. The day's route took the teams down the Otija Plains, with its wide-open expanses beckoning them to the south. But when they reached the Kumib riverbed, things took a more serious turn. With the mercury already in the high 30s, the thick sand proved many a rider's undoing. In fact, the conditions became so challenging that the organizers gave the group the option of riding next to the riverbed for as long as possible, only getting back down to the soft sand when there was no other way to forge their way south. The nearly 40 kilometers of sandy riverbed riding felt like more than double that. But when they were finally able to exit the river and turn southeast, the allure of a 2-night stay at Puros, including a well-deserved rest day, was strong. The time in Puros would be used to good effect, giving the riders a chance to rest and do some washing, as well as perform some much-needed maintenance on their trusty Honda Africa twin steeds. After 7 days in the saddle, it was a welcome respite from the rough and tumble of riding some of Africa's most challenging routes. For the organisers, evaluating the 10 teams was no easy task, but slowly some favourites were starting to emerge from what was a highly talented, dedicated and team-oriented group of adventure riders.
It's been an absolute joy with 20 people that share the same interest. It's been an adventure. It hasn't been a competition thus far for me, certainly. It's been a bunch of friends that's riding through the most spectacular places in South Africa and Namibia, for that instance.
That feeling of the group sticking together as one was felt in Van Zyl. Those 2 days we stick together, and like Cobus said, it doesn't feel like a competition though. It feels like this epic adventure.
Well, the highlight for the trip for me was definitely doing Van Zyl's Pass. It's been a bucket list item since pretty much day one of my dual sporting riding. And I enjoyed the teamwork and I enjoyed the camaraderie and everyone getting together and pushing and pulling and helping the bikes get down Van Zyl's Pass. And then funnily enough, even the few kilometers after that was just fantastic, good fun. And there we actually didn't have anyone to help us. Everyone was still coming down the pass, you know, so it ended up being a challenging day, and it was immense fun.
The rest day at Puros not only allowed the teams to carefully check, reset and re-talk every part of their Honda Africa twins, but also to reflect on what they had experienced thus far. When you're in the heat and dust of the moment, you only think of what the next corner, the next hill will bring. But in the campsite, with your feet up, it all starts to sink in, and the smiles said it all. While the rest day was a welcome break, the Honda Quest teams were eager to get going when day 9 dawned. The planned route included negotiating the Puros Canyon, but the organisers were aware of the ever-present danger of elephants in the region, and when a sighting of a protective elephant cow and her calf was confirmed, the route had to be altered. Returning to Puros first and then heading directly south to Palembach meant tackling the riverbed's deep sand, now all churned up, for a second time, and that wasn't their only problem. While the road stretching across the Giribe's plain towards Sesfontein looked straightforward enough, the reality is quite different. The 107-kilometre section was one of the worst of the trip, with corrugations shaking and rattling man and machine to the core. Adults aren't the only ones fascinated by adventure bikes.
I know when I was a little boy, I always wanted to get on a motorbike. And I think that kids are very impressionable. So what better way to indoctrinate the next generation than to let them have a ride? You see little kids, they look at these things and they want to touch, they want to get on it, they want to play with it. And it's nothing to just go for a quick ride. And they tell these stories for ages to come. So I know I was once a little boy who wanted a motorbike.
These children will remember their encounter with the friendly folk of the Honda Quest for a long time to come, and perhaps even dream of entering the event one day too. Reaching the final destination, the imposing Brandberg with its famous White Lady sand painting, meant riding through the thick sand of the Soros Communal Conservancy, including a long stretch down the Gowantagab riverbed. It turned out to be a final test of character for the riders, especially for Charles Potgieter, who took a tumble when his bike hit an aardvark hole at speed. Despite being catapulted over the handlebars, he emerged unhurt, and the Africa twin only suffered a damaged handguard. It was dusk by the time the riders arrived at the foot of the Brandberg, knowing that the end was in sight. By now, the organizers had already identified which teams had excelled despite the conditions, but the winners would have to wait for the final announcement in Windhoek the next day. After 12 grueling days in the saddle and with the dust washed away, there was time for the 20 intrepid contestants to reflect, to analyze, and to swap their many experiences over some welcome frosties.
The moment you've all been waiting for, I'm going to introduce our president, Toshiaki Kunaka, who will say a couple of words and then also announce our winning team. So please, Kunaka-san, join us on the stage.
The winner of this very, very memorable first Honda Quest, Charles Potgieter and Johannes van Kerden. Congratulations!
The Spirit of Quest Award went to Grant Pentelow and Glenn Koch. See you at the Honda Quest True Adventure next year.